Hello, and welcome to our presentation on homelessness in Los Angeles City and County COC in California, and the effects and proposed solution to this detrimental problem.
Hi, my name is Gabby.
Hi, I'm Daniel.
I'm Becky.
I'm Aaron.
And my name is Lauren.
So first, to start off, we will be talking about what is the problem that we're looking at. So we wanted to look at poverty and look at homelessness. And why we chose this is due to the fact that homelessness encompasses much more than just the lack of a physical home. So these effects that we can see have lifelong consequences, and it affects not only the physical, but medical, emotional, social, and mental health of the individual it afflicts. So as you can see, it's very widespread into just more than not having a physical place to stay. So we first wanted to define what is homelessness. Well, according to Murphy, it's an individual without a permanent residence, and it is to be considered homeless. Now, this also includes people who are staying with someone else in a hotel, a shelter, or living in their car. These are all still considered to be homeless. And then we broke it down further into the two main types. So we have chronic versus acute. Now, chronic homelessness is an individual who has been without a permanent residence for at least 1 year. Acute is an individual who has not been without, or has been without a permanent residence for less than a year. So then we decided to look at what are the main factors that cause and contribute to homelessness. Well, according to Pasuk et al. And the 2018 poverty guidelines, there's not really a clear cut about what fully contributes to homelessness. However, many believe the greatest driving factors include extreme poverty and lack of affordable housing. Other influencing factors, people argue though, include unemployment, foreclosure, family composition, and lack of available resources and benefits. And with recent poverty levels increasing, more and more individuals are at risk of falling below the federal poverty line and putting them at an increased risk of becoming. In 2009, 43.6 million people, including single individuals and families, are now considered below the federal poverty line. So what this means for a single adult individual is that they're making at or below $12,140 per year. And this is clearly not even enough to meet their bare minimum needs. So next, we're going to discuss why we specifically chose California and the locations within California. Now, we looked at recent statistics from 2018, which was the most recent that was available, and it shows that the East and West Coasts are bearing the burden of this ever-growing issue. And California alone accounts for 129,972 of the 552,830 individuals without a home. So this means that California accounts for 24% of the total homeless, and that of every 10,000 individuals in California, 33 of them are without a place to stay on any given night. So we wanted to focus on the hardest locations hit in California, as we knew that we couldn't help every place in California alone. So we wanted to be very specific in where we targeted so that we could have the biggest impact. So although Macedonia County has the highest rate of homelessness per 10,000 people at 100 people, Los Angeles City and County COC, which is just a specific county in California, has less homelessness per 10,000, but they have a higher overall number of homelessness at 49,955 individuals. So that means that they account for 38% of the total California homeless population. So that means that out of every 10,000 people, 53.4 of them are without a given place to stay on a night. So we wanted to look at the specific areas because they had the highest total number. So we thought that we could influence and help the biggest group of people possible in for 10,000 in terms of capita. So for our demographics, I'm just going to briefly outline them. We decided to look at all genders and genders identities equally, as we know that it affects both races, or both genders, and that it can have big impacts no matter what. And then we wanted to serve them without discrimination. We also decided to look at single adult individuals, and then specifically Caucasians, African Americans, and Native Americans. So I'm going to show you guys a graph on the next slide for the density of homelessness per state. So this is a graph outlining between 2007 and 2018 how many people were experiencing homelessness on any given night. And as you can see, the dark red is the higher amount of people homelessness versus the light white. So California, as you can see, has a far greater density in homelessness compared to any other state across the US. And then I will pass it off to Aaron, and he will talk more about the problem.
So why should people care? Homelessness affects all races, genders, and ages. According to the state of homelessness in the United States in 2018, 552,830 individuals were without a place to stay on a given night, which represents 17 people out of every 10,000. Our main focus of individuals affected by this crisis are African Americans, Caucasians, and also Native Americans, because they were the most affected by this crisis. In 2018, single individuals account for 372,417 people, which comes to 67% of the population of people who are homeless. Caucasians have the highest total percentage of 50% of the population. African Americans make up 40%, and Native Americans take up the total of 3% of the homeless population. Now on the next slide, you'll see this first graph. And looking at this first graph, you can see the population broken down into separate categories. And then on this next graph, you can see that it shows the different ethnicities broken up. And as you can see, Native American, African Americans are disproportionately represented. Now, we are not excluding any race, but we are targeting them more heavily through advertising. And on the next slide, individuals that are part of the homeless community can suffer from mental, medical, emotional, and social issues. Examples of these include bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, depression, suicidal thoughts, abuse, post-traumatic stress disorder, and even the HIV virus. According to the third annual homelessness assessment to Congress, which uses representative samples of the United States population, 28% of individuals being sheltered on a single night would be diagnosed with a mental illness, such as depression, bipolar disorder, or even schizophrenia. There are individuals that are also abused, have suicidal thoughts, and have experienced using illegal drugs. When being homeless, the chance of you catching a life-threatening disease is very high. Low-income or homeless individuals are at a very high chance in catching a stroke, heart disease, pneumonia, and also a chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. A reason for this happening is because of their lack of ability to pay for medications, medical insurance, and also medical care. With all these significant factors and all of these individuals not being able to afford the essential products they need, it is very important for these homeless individuals to buy clean clothes, take a shower, receive the right medications they need, and buy personal hygiene products. Even though these shelters provide food and a bed for individuals to sleep on for a temporary amount of time, they do not provide essential products people need to stay clean and healthy. According to the 2018 poverty guidelines, 43.6 million people, which includes single individuals and families, live below the poverty line. This means that the average person below the poverty line makes an average salary of $12,140 per year. This salary is not enough to support a family or even themselves when you are paying for food, clothing, rent, mortgage, bills, and also even taxes. And now Lauren will be addressing the problem.
So when we were looking at this problem and how we wanted to address it, we thought that it would be a good idea to look at existing solutions to this problem so that we can see what needs are already being met, some of the struggles that they're going through, and if there's any gaps that we could fill in with our innovative solution. So one of the first places that we looked was at healthcare for the homeless. And what healthcare for the homeless aims to do is provide care for low-income and homeless individuals. Now, with this program, things like background status or income don't matter. As long as an individual is in need, then they're able to seek help from healthcare for the homeless. And just to see how many people have been served by this, looking at data from 2017, in the United States, there were 229 centers that served 1.4 million homeless individuals. And although this is a very large number, there are more than that many people in the nation who are homeless. So obviously not everybody can be reached. And if we go to the next slide, we can see some of the struggles that they have when it comes to providing care for homeless individuals. Most of the funding that they receive is from the federal government, and it's very difficult to get proper funding just because homelessness is such a big issue in our nation, and it's something that needs a lot of funding in order to get individuals the help that they need. And there was a recent proposal made by the Trump administration that cut a lot of funding for Medicaid, housing assistance, food programs, pretty much anything that would help these individuals in need. And since Medicaid alone covers over half of all homeless patients, this cut was very detrimental to healthcare for the homeless and being able to provide services for people who need it. And then if we go to the next slide, we can see that there is another similar program called Continuum of Care. And what this does is it sets up housing and gives people money if they are homeless. Now, unlike healthcare for the homeless, people have to apply for this. So as far as healthcare for the homeless, things like background and income don't matter, but it does here. And it is for both individuals and families, but they have to fit that certain criteria in order to receive help. And then if we go to the next slide, we can see that Continuum of Care also struggles to get the funding that they need. They also get a lot of funding from the government, and although they are trying to help as many people as possible, with not enough money, it's just very difficult to get those individuals who are without a home in a safe and secure environment. And although they are looking to change how they get funding, that's something that takes a lot of time, and if they wanted to rely on, say, donations or receive money from something other than the government, that is going to just take a lot of money to be able to support this program. So even though they are doing a lot of good, they're helping a lot of individuals, just that lack of funding is really hard to actually help everybody who needs it. So we were just kind of keeping these in the back of our minds as we were coming up with our innovative solution, and I'm going to pass it on to Daniel now, who is going to explain what that solution is.
Well, our group decided to create a new nonprofit organization as our applied innovative idea to help the issue that represents being homeless. This organization will have available many of the basic resources that individuals affected by homelessness are lacking. The organization will offer some programs to help these individuals to get back on their feet. Some of these programs are medical clinics with a pharmacy, psychiatric counseling, group counseling for Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, and social programs such as financial counseling, job counseling, or anger management. The facility would also provide basic resources such as clothing, hygiene products, and a showering center. Now in the next slide, we'll see our screening process. They must meet a certain criteria for a program. They must be single adult individuals without a permanent residence. Their income must be below the federal poverty line for a single individual, which is $12,140 per year. Gender identity is not something we take into consideration. This program is meant to help individuals with resources to not only better their physical, mental, and emotional health, but also get back on their feet. Our only true criteria for individuals entering the facility beyond being below the poverty line is that they must be at least 18 years old. This is due to the fact that our facility is targeted for adults, and many of our resources require you to be of age to receive such treatment, like medical care and psychological counseling. We understand that everyone is impacted by homelessness, not just people over the age of 18, but we choose to address the individuals most heavily affected, as if we extend help to everyone, our resources will be spread thin. Since there is no real way to prove homelessness, there will not be a mandated policy that you must prove that you're actually homeless. If people are looking for these services to help them become stable and free from poverty, we will provide it to them. If someone commits a crime within our facility, such as theft, violence, or drug or alcohol abuse, we do have the right to remove them. And if we need it, we'll put in place a permanent ban for the future. We hope that due to the fact that the facility is not an overnight or long-term stay facility, there will be less of chance for these crimes to be committed. People involved in the design and implementation of this program would be a doctor, an osteopathic medicine or medical doctor, a pharmacist, a nurse practitioner, a registered nurse, and a certified nursing assistant if needed for the medical clinic. A psychiatrist or a group counselor would be something we would be interested in as well, as individuals who can offer job, financial, life, and anger management counseling. Would also like to partnership with a job placement agency so the individuals who come to us for help would have the resources and information they need to find a job and get back on their feet. For funding, we try to minimize the need for funding by combining everything into one central location. We do understand that funding is a large issue. Now I will pass it on to Gabby.
So for the goal of our project, is that our solution will help individuals, regardless of how long someone has been without a home, as the issue can sometimes determine someone's quality of life. We also offer a solution that will aim those suffering from homelessness so they could have more resources that assist them in getting back in their feet. Our solution will also address all genders and all gender identities equally in order to serve everyone who is in need without discriminating. For the next slide, why is it important? The reason why this is important is that homelessness is a problem that extends beyond just the lack of physical home, but also goes along with the physical, medical, emotional, social, and mental issues. People who are homeless are in an increased risk of illness or catching a life-threatening disease. What I mean by this is that individuals who are experiencing homelessness suffer from increased risk of having chronic disease, serious mental illness, social traumas, and suicidal thoughts. One who is homeless can also experience abuse, post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic experiences, substance abuse, and more. All of this depending on which level of homelessness they are experiencing. For our next slide, sources for the plan. Our project will need funds that come from nonprofit organization, tax, donations, or other resources in order to have the money to implement the solution. The organization that we are implementing will have medical clinics with pharmacy, psychiatric counseling, group counseling for Alcoholic Anonymous and Narcotic Anonymous, and social programs that will help those individuals with financial counseling, job counseling, and anger management. The facility will also provide basic resources such as clothing, hygiene products, and showering centers for individuals to start fresh. For our next slide that has obstacles and limitations, this solution may have possible barriers for actually implementing the plan. The biggest one will be money funds. This because we can potentially not have as many donations that will help our plan. We also just targeting a small portion of LA, and homelessness affects all ages, race, gender, and region. Therefore, we're not technically helping every single population. Hence, the solutions that contribute to homeless are not clear enough, and there is a heavy debate surrounding the issue, as many believe the greatest driving factors are extreme poverty plus the lack of affordable housing. Other influencing factors include unemployment rates, foreclosure rates, and family composition, and the lack of availability of benefits. In summary, for a whole project proposal can fix the whole entire problem, and our solution probably wouldn't have a major environmental impact, but it will have a positive social and economic impact since more people will be employed. Thank you.
Okay, so we're at 19 minutes seconds.